When I am eager to understand the literature given by the Goswamis, then I shall be able to understand the transcendental loving affairs of Radha and Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in order to bestow upon human society the benediction of the science of Krishna. The most exalted of all the activities of Lord Chaitanya are his pastimes of conjugal love with the gopis. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in the mood of Srimati Radharani, the best of the gopis. Therefore, to understand the mission of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and follow in his footsteps, one must very seriously follow in the footsteps of the 6 Goswamis. Srila Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath, Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta, and Dasa Raghunath. Sri Rupa Goswami was the leader of all the Goswamis, and to guide our activities, he gave us this Upadeshamrita, the nectar of instruction to follow. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left behind him the 8 verses known as Siksastaka, Rupa Goswami gave us Upadeshamrita, so that we may become pure Vaishnavas. In all spiritual affairs, one's first duty is to control his mind and senses. Unless one controls his mind and senses, one cannot make any advancement in spiritual life. Everyone within this material world is engrossed in the modes of passion and ignorance. One must promote himself to the platform of goodness, sattva guna, by following the instructions of Rupa Goswami, and then everything concerning how to make further progress will be revealed. Advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower. A follower of the Krishna consciousness movement should become a perfect Goswami. Vaishnavas are generally known as Goswamis. In Vrindavana, this is the title by which the director of each temple is known. One who wants to become a perfect devotee of Krishna must become a Goswami. Go means the senses, and Swami means the master. Unless one controls his senses, his mind, one cannot become a Goswami. To achieve the highest success in life, by becoming a Goswami and then a pure devotee of the Lord, one must follow the instructions known as Upadeksamrita, which have been given by Srila Rupa Goswami. Srila Rupa Goswami has given many other books, such as Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Vidagdha Madhava, and Lalita Madhava. But Upadeshamrita constitutes the first instructions for neophyte devotees. One should follow these instructions very strictly, then it will be easier to make one's life successful. Hare Krishna. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, September 20th, 1975, Vishwarupa Mahotsava, Krishna Balarama Mandir, Raman Reti, Vrindavana, India. Text 1. Vacha Vegam, Manasakroda Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Udarapasta Vegam, Etan Vegam, Yo Vishaheta Dirak, Sarvam Apimam, Prithivim Sasisyat. Vacha, of speech. Vegam, urge. Manasa, of the mind. Krodha, of anger. Vegam, urge. Jiva, of the tongue. Vegan, urge. Udarapasta, Udara upasta, of the belly and genitals. Vegam, urge. Etan, these. Vegan, urges. Ya, whoever. Vishaheta, can tolerate. Dira, sober. Sarvam, all. Api, certainly. Imam, this. Prithivim, world. Sa, that person. Sisyat, can make disciples. Translation. A sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals, is qualified to make disciples all over the world. Purport. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 6.1, 9-10, Parikshit Maharaj placed a number of intelligent questions before Sukadeva Goswami. One of these questions was, why do people undergo atonement if they cannot control their senses? For instance, a thief may know perfectly well that he may be arrested for his stealing. And he may actually even see a thief arrested by the police, yet he continues to steal. Experience is gathered by hearing and seeing. One who is less intelligent gathers experience by seeing, and one who is more intelligent gathers experience by hearing. When an intelligent person hears from the law books and Shastra or scriptures that stealing is not good, and hears that a thief is punished when arrested, he refrains from theft. A less intelligent person may first have to be arrested and punished for stealing to learn to stop stealing. However, a rascal, a foolish man, may have the experience of both hearing and seeing, and may even be punished, but still he continues to steal. Even if such a person atones and is punished by the government, he will again commit theft as soon as he comes out of jail. If punishment in jail is considered atonement, what is the benefit of such atonement? Thus Parikshit Maharaj inquired, Drishta Struta Bhyam Yat Papam Janan Api Atmanohitam Karoti Bhuyo Vivassaha Prayaschitam Mato Katam Kvachin Nivartate Badrat Kvachich Charatitat Punaha Prayaschitam Ato Partam Manye Kunjara Sochavat. He compared atonement to an elephant's bathing. The elephant may take a very nice bath in the river, but as soon as he comes onto the bank, it throws dirt all over its body. What then is the value of its bathing? Similarly, many spiritual practitioners chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and at the same time commit many forbidden things, thinking that their chanting will counteract their offenses. This, of course, is the seventh offense, to commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name. Seventh offense against the holy name. Of 10 types of offenses one can commit while chanting the holy name of Krishna, this offense is called the Namno Balad Yasya Hipapa Buddhi, committing sinful activities on the strength of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Certainly, certain Christians go to church to confess their sins, thinking that confessing their sins before a priest and performing some penance will relieve them from the results of their weekly sins. As soon as Saturday is over and Sunday comes, they again begin their sinful activities, expecting to be forgiven the next Saturday. This kind of prayaschita or atonement is condemned by Parikshit Maharaj, the most intelligent king of his time. Sukadeva Goswami, equally intelligent, as befitting the spiritual master of Maharaj Parikshit, answered the king and confirmed that his statement concerning atonement was correct. A sinful activity cannot be counteracted by a pious activity. Thus, real prayaschita atonement is the awakening of our dormant Krishna consciousness. So a sinful activity cannot be counteracted by a pious activity. Interesting point. Real atonement involves coming to real knowledge, and for this there is a standard process. When one follows a regulated hygienic process, he does not fall sick. A human being is meant to be trained according to certain principles to revive his original knowledge. Such a methodical life is described as tapasya. One can be gradually elevated to the standard of real knowledge or Krishna consciousness by practicing austerity and celibacy, brahmacharya, by controlling the mind, by controlling the senses, by giving up one's possessions and charity, by being avowedly truthful, by keeping clean, and by practicing yoga asanas. Well, there is the process right there. However, if one is fortunate enough to get the association of a pure devotee, He can easily surpass all the practices for controlling the mind by the mystic yoga process simply by following the regulative principles of Krishna consciousness, refraining from illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling, and by engaging in the service of the Supreme Lord under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master. This easy process is being recommended by Srila Rupa Goswami. So here we have the difference between following a methodical life based on tapasya for gradual elevation to Krishna consciousness, or following the regulative principles of Krishna consciousness by engaging in the service of the Supreme Lord under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master. So you have two ways here. One is actually not recommended. The first one is not really recommended, although it's bona fide, but it's not really recommended. How do we know it's not recommended? Because Lord Chaitanya did not emphasize it. He emphasized the second process of mystic yoga, simply by following the regulative principles of Krishna consciousness, refraining from illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling, and by engaging in the service of the Supreme Lord under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master. This easy process is being recommended by Srila Rupa Goswami. So let's think about this a little bit. The first process is considered mechanical. And it can lead to gradual elevation. The second process is called mystic yoga. Why is it called mystic yoga? Anybody? Why is it called mystic yoga? This is explained in Bhagavad Gita. Where it says, huh? Yeah, somewhere, yes. No, I'll find it. 1 second.
Mystic yoga is defined in 6.1.
Okay, read what it says. What's it say? What's it say?
The one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he was created is in the renounced order of life, and he is true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no work.
Okay, that's true, but okay, 1 second. We'll find this now. Well, mystic yoga is in a sense of revelation through surrender to Krishna. In other words, it is not a methodical or mechanical process. It's mystical because one does not follow let's say, a mechanical step-by-step process. By surrendering to a bona fide spiritual master and following the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness, by engaging in devotional service. As we advance in devotional service or advance in surrendering to the Lord, He reveals Himself to the devotee. So it's a mystical process. Mystical in the sense that it does not have it's not like a method or a mechanical process. It's based on a real surrender to the Lord. All right? Whereas the first process it's like the yoga ladder. You do this, and then you come to this point, and then you do more, and you come to this point, you do more, you come to this point, and eventually you reach Krishna. But the process of Krishna consciousness, something mystical happens. That yeyatamam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham mamavart manavartam te manusya partha sarvasaha. As you surrender unto Krishna, Krishna progressively or proportionately reveals Himself to the devotee. Therefore, it's called a mystic process. Look up the word mystic in the you have your computer? Look the word mystic. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Verse, Lord Krishna stresses the importance of remembering Him. One's memory of Krishna is revived by chanting the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna. By this practice of chanting and hearing the sound vibration of the Supreme Lord, one's ear, tongue and mind are engaged. This mystic meditation is very easy to practice and it helps one attain the Supreme Lord.
Yep, there you go.
Mystic by definition is a person who seeks by contemplation or self-surrender.
No, not the noun, the adjective. We want the adjective.
It's another term for mystical. Synonyms are spiritual, religious, transcendental.
What?
Otherworldly.
What? Look up the adjective. That was the noun. Now, see where it says ADJ.
Involving or characterized by esoteric, otherworldly, or symbolic practices or content as certain religious ceremonies and art, spiritually significant, ethereal, by nature of pertaining to mysteries only to the initiated, mystic rites, of occult character, form or significance, of obscure or mysterious character or significance relating to mysticism.
Yeah, so that's why I say it's a mystical, that's why it's described as mystical. It's not what you would think as a empirical, rational process. It's by chanting Hare Krishna, one's memory of Krishna is revived, and by surrendering to Krishna, Krishna proportionately reveals Himself to the devotee. That's why it's called mystical. And here it says, by this practice of chanting and hearing the sound vibration of the Supreme Lord, one's ear, tongue, and mind are engaged. This mystic meditation is very easy to practice, and it helps one attain the Supreme Lord. There's another place where it actually says it's mystic yoga.
In of instruction, every text this word is used, mystic. Text 1, text 2.
Well, yeah, it says mystic yoga process. It says, if one is fortunate enough to get the association of pure devotee, he can easily surpass all the practices for controlling the mind by the mystic yoga process, simply by following the regulative principles of Krishna consciousness.
All the texts this word is used, 1 to 10.
What do you mean? In every...
Of instruction.
Okay.
next to it is saying that one should avoid association of Mayavadis who simply blaspheme Vaishnavas, or Bhukti Karmis who are interested in material happiness, who desire liberation by merging in the existence of formless absolute, and Siddhi Karmis who desire the perfection of mystic yoga are classified as HG Harivilas. To associate with such a person is not desirable.
Anyway, it says, this mystic meditation is very easy to practice, and it helps one attain the Supreme Lord. Okay? So, rather than the mechanical process, it's a mystical process. Let's see, there's another reference here. Let's take a look. 635. 635. Okay, we'll come back to it. There's a specific place in Bhagavad Gita that says mystic yoga. We'll find it. All right. So, anyway, the mystic yoga, it says, if one is fortunate enough to get the association of a pure devotee, he can easily surpass all the practices for controlling the mind by the mystic yoga process, simply by following the regulative principles of Krishna consciousness.
So in Bhagavad Gita it is in 1875.
What does it say?
By the mercy of Vyasa, I have heard these most confidential talks directly from the master of all mysticism, Krishna, who was speaking personally to Arjuna. And then in Bhagavad Gita, 1866, again there is a definition of mystics and devotees are all called transcendent.
Yeah, it's not mystic yoga though. It's saying, it's talking about mystery. Okay, we'll come back to it. We'll come back to it. Well, I'll find it. Anyway, here in the Nectar of Devotion instruction, when it says he can easily surpass all the practices for controlling the mind by the mystic yoga process, simply by following the regulative principles of Krishna consciousness. So, what he refers to mystic yoga process is the process by tapasya, celibacy, austerity, controlling the mind, so forth. But in another place, he does refer to mystic yoga as and surrendering to Krishna, and then Krishna reveals himself to the devotee. Let me just look at that one verse. Ye yatamam prapadyante. It says that Krishna is fully realized only by his pure devotees. Consequently, Krishna is the object of everyone's realization, and thus anyone and everyone is satisfied according to one's desire to have him. In the transcendental world also, Krishna reciprocates with his pure devotees in the transcendental attitude, just as the devotee wants. One devotee may want Krishna as Supreme Master, another as his personal friend, and another as his son, and still another as his lover. Krishna rewards all the devotees equally according to their different intensities of love for him. In the material world, the same reciprocations of feelings are there, and they are equally exchanged by the Lord with the different types of worshippers. The pure devotees, both here and in the transcendental abode, associate with him in person and are able to render personal service to the Lord, and thus derive transcendental bliss in his loving service. Everyone is dependent for success upon Krishna's mercy alone, and all kinds of spiritual processes are but different degrees of success on the same path. Unless, therefore, one comes to the highest perfection of Krishna consciousness, all attempts remain imperfect, as is stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Whether one is without desire, the condition of devotees, or is desirous of all fruitive results, or is after liberation, one should, with all efforts, try to worship the Supreme Lord, Personality Godhead, for complete perfection, culminating in Krishna consciousness. So, when we talk about mystic yoga, he's referring to the fact that one cannot really achieve pure Krishna consciousness simply by following a mechanical process. One has to actually surrender to the Lord fully.
Yes, one things that we learned earlier,
Yes,
in Nectar of Devotion,
yes,
exact same sentence that you mentioned, one cannot attain Krishna consciousness by mechanical process.
yes, exactly right. So, this surrender to the Lord and following the simple process of Krishna consciousness, it gives a deeper understanding of the word mystic yoga. It's not mechanical. And we'll come across it. I'll find it a little bit later. Okay. So, first, one must control his speaking power. For every one of us has the power of speech. As soon as we get an opportunity, we begin to speak. If we do not speak about Krishna consciousness, we speak about all sorts of nonsense. A toad in a field speaks by croaking, and similarly, everyone who has a tongue wants to speak, even if all he has to say is nonsense. The croaking of the toad, however, simply invites the snake. Please come here and eat me. Nevertheless, although it is inviting death, the toad goes on croaking. The talking of materialistic men and impersonalist Mayavadi philosophers may be compared to the croaking of frogs. They are always speaking nonsense, and thus inviting death to catch them. Controlling speech, however, does not mean self-imposed silence. The external process of mona, as Mayavadi philosophers think. Silence may appear helpful for some time, but ultimately proves a failure. The meaning of controlled speech conveyed by Srila Rupa Goswami advocates the positive process of Krishna Katha. So, the external mona is a negative process. In other words, mona is recommended for those people who can't keep their mouth shut. They have a big mouth and always talk nonsense. So, but it will not solve the problem, but it will temporarily relieve the nefarious effects of talking nonsense all the time. But the real solution to the problem is a positive process, replacing all nonsense talk with not talk about Krishna. So there's a difference between a negative process, artificially trying to stop something, and a positive process, replacing that negative thing with something completely positive. Okay. So Rupa Goswami advocates the positive process of Krishna Katha, engaging the speaking process in glorifying the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. So if you read the Krishna book, like Prabhupada, he has long, long passages where devotees like Indra and Prahlad and Dhruva Maharaj and Lord Shiva and different devotees glorify the Lord. Long, long passages of glorification, the demigods, etc. So, to glorify the Lord requires knowledge. To talk nonsense doesn't require knowledge at all, because nonsense means you're just making things up as you go along. So it's easier to talk nonsense. It's much harder to speak meaningful words glorifying the Lord. So how are we going to learn meaningful words glorifying the Lord? Therefore, Krishna says that Sarva Shichaham Hridi Sanivisto Matak Smritir Jnanam Apahanam Cha. Krishna, as Paramatma, is the source of knowledge and remembrance. Also, he can give forgetfulness. So, if we want to be able to glorify the Lord, we have to get Krishna's mercy. And we attract, we become attracted to Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna. And we receive the mercy of Krishna by surrendering to his representatives, the bona fide gurus. By the benediction of the spiritual master, by the mercy of the spiritual master, one received the benediction of Krishna. Yasya prasada, Bhagavat prasada. So that's the secret right there. My only wish to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from the lotus mouth, my spiritual master. Right? Guru Mukha Padma Vaikya, Chitete Kariya Aikya. So that is the secret to advancing in spiritual life. So, in order to be able to speak Krishna Katha, we have to get the mercy of the spiritual master, by which we are blessed by Krishna to be able to speak about him. The tongue can thus glorify the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord. The preacher of Krishna Katha is always beyond the clutches of death. This is the significance of controlling the urge to speak. So, just like the frog is croaking, but his croaking simply attracts the snake. But if we always speak Krishna consciousness or Krishna Katha, we surpass the clutches of death. Well, the bite of the snake is the clutches of death. So, if we're speaking nonsense, we're inviting death. If we speak Krishna consciousness, we become free of birth, death, old age, and disease.
Does that mean we should be like silent, like let's say if we are in office or we are sitting with materialistic thoughts?
Well, no. You have to know how to speak in such a way that people develop a genuine interest in hearing about Krishna. So that is an art. It takes time to learn how to do that. It's not a mechanical thing. As your faith in Krishna increases, Krishna reveals things to you. And the most important thing is how to speak pleasingly about Krishna. So, there is religious talk and there's cultural talk. Cultural talk is education. Religious talk is usually, I believe this, you believe something else, we'll never come to any mutual agreement. But cultural talk is, oh, I'm interested. What you just said really interests me. Can you tell me some more? Because it's educational. Okay, now what's an example of that? Well, people like to eat. So when they hear about how in India it's possible to make food taste really good by the art of masala. Masala means blends of spices. Now, not only those spices are for taste, but they're also for health. Now everyone's interested in health. All the demons are interested in their bodies, keeping the body healthy for sense gratification. So now, when they hear about blending of spices for taste and for health. Now, don't forget, Europe in the Middle Ages started importing massive amount of spices from India. What for? For taste, right? So when they would boil, let's say, a pig in water, right? After they finish boiling it, it doesn't have any taste, right? Huh? Huh? It has what?
It does have taste, and it's horrible.
Yeah, it tastes horrible. So in order to mask that taste and make it a little tasty, they started importing huge amounts of spices from India. They had the spice. What do you call it? You know, people like Marco Polo and others were going to India. The spice route. It's called the spice route. Yeah, they would go through eastern India. You know, from Kerala they would start. Then they go through eastern India, meaning Pakistan, and then Iran, and then Turkey, and then Greece, and then up into Europe. Or they would take boats, you know, around the Horn of Africa all the way up to Europe. But the spice route was the famous spice route. So this is an example of culture, right? These spices are traditional in Ayurveda, and Ayurveda is part of the Vedas, right? So here's a point of culture by which people can learn something that they don't know, and it's related to Krishna. Then there's mathematics. If you know the history of mathematics, the Vedas contributed to Western mathematics zero. Because of zero, they were able to solve so many problems. When they didn't have the zero, they couldn't solve so many problems. So if you know the history of mathematics, there's another cultural thing that comes from the Vedas. And Pythagorean geometry, that also comes from the Vedas. If you study Vedic mathematics, you'll see it's the origin of Pythagoras geometry is Vedic mathematics. Vedic mathematics is all about the relationships of numbers. So when you learn all these things through study of the Vedas, then you can present Krishna consciousness in a cultural way, as opposed to a religious way. And then language. European languages are called Indo-European languages. Why does it say Indo-European? Because they're all related to Sanskrit. Latin, French, Italian, Romanian, Greek, Parsi. They're all related to Sanskrit. They're Indo-European languages. Armenian is a Indo-European language. Okay. So when you know these things, then you can present a cultural presentation of Krishna. But how are you going to know these things? You have to sit down and hear on a regular basis. Okay. And then music. Sari Gama Patanisa, that's in the Vedas. The solfege, as they say, the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, right? It's coming from Sari Gama Patanisa. And Sari Gama Patanisa is a spiritual raga and or scale. It has deep spiritual significance. If you learn the deep spiritual significance of Sari Gama Patanisa, you could talk, you could write books, you can talk about it for years, and how it's influenced Western music. Okay. So here we see there's so many ways of presenting a cultural presentation of Krishna consciousness. Philosophy. India is always, the Vedas are the basis of all philosophies in the West. Okay. So now, the restlessness or fickleness of the mind, manovega, is controlled when one can fix his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. The Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 22:31 says, Krishna Surya Samala, Maya Haya Andakar, Yahan Krishna Tahanai, Mayara Adhikar. Krishna is just like the sun, and Maya is like the darkness. If the sun is present, there is no question of the darkness. Similarly, if Krishna is present in the mind, there is no possibility of the mind being agitated by Maya's influence. Now here's the formula for healing mental diseases, mental sickness. If Krishna is in the mind, there's no possibility of the mind being agitated by Maya's influence. Now the question is, how do you get Krishna in the mind? How do you get Maya in the mind? How do you get Maya in the mind? Let's talk about that first. Then we can talk about how to get Krishna in the mind.
Thinking about planning, worrying, fearing,
How did Ajamil get Maya in his mind?
seeing it.
Yes. He saw it. He saw a Sudra couple in the forest engaging in sense gratification. And it changed him the rest of his life. Oh, now we see the influence of the internet and how it can destroy the mind of a young kid. Right? There's so many horrible things you can see on the internet. And there's some good things too, but a lot of horrible things. And it can completely destroy the mind of a young child, of an adult. It doesn't matter, young or old. They can all get destroyed. So, therefore, now how to get Krishna in the mind? Stane stata srutigadan tanavan manobir. So this is the way to get Krishna in the mind. When Lord Chaitanya was speaking to Ramananda Roy, he wanted to know what's the best way to be Krishna conscious. And Ramananda Roy said so many things, but when he mentioned this verse, Stane stata srutikatan tanavan manobir, spoken by Brahma, then Lord Chaitanya said, yes, now you're on track. Speak some more. This is the 10th chapter, 10th canto, 14th verse, 3rd chapter. 3rd verse, I'm sorry. So, this says, Jnane prayasam udapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukaritam bhavadya vartam stane stata sutikatam tanavan manobir ye prayesu jita jito pi asitais trilokyam. Those who, even while remaining situated in their established social positions, who throw away the process of speculative knowledge and with their body, words, and mind offer respects to descriptions of your, meaning Krishna's, personality and activities, dedicating their lives to these narrations, which are vibrated by you personally and by your pure devotees, certainly conquer your lordship, although you are otherwise unconquerable by anyone within the 3 worlds. Now, here's the formula. Give up speculative knowledge. And with the body, words, and mind, always listen carefully to the descriptions of Krishna's personality and activities. And dedicate yourself to hearing these narrations over and over again and continually, which you may speak yourself, or which Krishna has spoken himself, or his pure devotees have spoken about Krishna, meaning Shruti and Smriti, Shastras. If you do this, you will conquer Krishna, although Krishna is unconquerable by anyone within the 3 worlds. Now, This is when Lord Chaitanya said, now continue speaking. This is very good. Build up on this. This is the platform on which you have to, we can make real advancement in spiritual life. So, Krishna says the same thing in other places. Shinvata swakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana hridyantak sto badrani vidunoti suhitsatam. He says, to hear about Krishna from Vedic literature or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best wishing friend and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. So, how many times does it say hearing about Krishna in this one verse? To hear about Krishna from Vedic literature, 1. Or to hear from him directly, 2. And for one who hears about him, 3. And it says, Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best wishing friend and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. 4. In this way, the devotee naturally develops his dormant, natural, transcendental knowledge. So, 4 times in the same verse, he mentions hearing about him, hearing about Krishna. And in other words, he's overemphasizing the importance of Shrutigana, Tanavan Manobir. Shrutigana, Tanavan Manobir means Shrutigatam Tano Vanobir means Shrutigana Gatam, received by hearing with the body, words, and mind. So one should remain in the position to continually hear about Krishna. So what is that position? It's any position that you're in already. Simply develop an equilibrium in your position of work, family, all that stuff, so that every night and every morning, hopefully, or at least once a day, but better twice a day, you sit down for a half an hour, 1 hour, and hear about Krishna. That's what Lord Chaitanya recommended, right? Yeah.
I was saying when you were talking about 4 instances of hearing, I remember one more time you were mentioning there is 9 times.
Yes.
Mentioned in 13th chapter, 26th verse.
Yes.
9 times it's mentioned about hearing.
Yes. 13:22.
22.
Yeah. Yes. 9 times in the purport. This is 4 times in one verse, right? 9 times in this one purport. Purusha prakriti stohi punkte prakriti jai gunai karanam gunasangasya sadasad janmasu. So 9 times he mentions in that one purport that one should submit to the hearing process, and 4 times in that one verse. So, how important is it? Utmost importance. In no way that you can underestimate the importance. Yeah, that's why it says Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. The first 2 things or primary devotional service is hearing and repeating, or hearing and chanting. Okay, so The yogic process of negating all material thoughts will not help. To try to create a vacuum in the mind is artificial. To try to create a vacuum in nature is artificial, right? There's no vacuum in nature. You know what a vacuum means? Where you let's say you have a closed container and you take all the air out and it becomes a vacuum. But as soon as you have a little hole, the air goes back in again. Because there's no vacuum in the whole material, at least on the earth, in the atmosphere, there's no vacuum. Right? It's not a natural situation. So in the same way, it's not natural to try and empty the mind of all thoughts. But it is natural to replace negative thoughts with positive thoughts. To replace nonsense with Krishna Katha. That is possible. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rasarajam rasapiyasya param dristvad vinivartate. One may try artificially to control the senses, but one is not happy by doing that, by some artificial process. But one who gets a higher taste, then easily they can control the lower passions because of the higher taste. The embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, though the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing higher taste is fixed in consciousness. So what is the higher taste? Well, the lower taste is, politics, sports, business, movies, comedy. You go to a comedy show for entertainment. But most comedy, like for example, there's a movie and someone goes to sit down, but someone puts a tack on the chair. And they sit down and they get pricked by the tack and they jump up and go, ah, like that, right? And then people laugh. They say, oh, that was funny, right? But what are they laughing at? They're laughing at the misery of that person, right? Or someone is going to go sit down and someone pulls the chair out and they fall down completely. And everyone, ah! But wait a minute. What are you laughing at? You're laughing at the misery of the person. See? So is that really comedy? No. Or someone goes, oh, hello, and then slams a pie into the face of the person, and everyone, ha, 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 ha. But again, it's not really funny. It's you're laughing at the misery of another person. So that's called entertainment. But what kind of entertainment is it? Very low-class entertainment. Nowadays, you go to movies, they show all these horrible kinds of movies, right? People getting killed and horrible situations and psychologically destructive situations, and ghost movies. Like kids love ghost movies. They like scary stories and ghost movies. But if they see a real ghost, they start screaming, "Mommy, help!" They're scared, right? So, is it entertainment? No, it's all nonsense.
Most of the time, when I grew up, all the things that you mentioned, all the jokes, I used to watch it in Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah.
Putting the face with the pie, pulling up the chair,
Yeah.
walking down.
Yeah. Or someone's pants get ripped and they walk around and people are all laughing at that person. He doesn't know why they're laughing, Yeah, is it funny? Actually, you're laughing at the other person's misery. You have a sense of superiority. It's not me, it's him. Or in school, you go on April Fool's Day, someone pins, something on someone else's back, like they make a little sign, they pin it on the back when the other person doesn't notice it. I am a fool, and everybody like that. They're all laughing. What are they laughing at? They're laughing at the other person's misery, and he is not sure. Looking around, why is everyone laughing? Well, someone pinned this sign on his back. I am a fool. So. This is called entertainment, but it's not entertainment, it's misery. So we need a higher taste. And that higher taste is Krishna Katha. But what begins as poison in the beginning and ends up as nectar, right, is happiness in the mode of goodness. So why does it say it begins as poison? Because our mind and our senses are corrupted. So when we hear about Krishna, we say, oh, that's boring. I want to watch, Charlie Chaplin. That's not boring. But by watching Charlie Chaplin, we've damaged our brain and our senses, and we've come to a very low level, right? So when you hear something about Krishna's transcendental pastime, you say, I get a headache hearing that. Right? But by continuing to hear, as our senses become and mind becomes purified, then we say, this is nectar, and Charlie Chaplin is nonsense. But in the beginning we said, Krishna conscious Katha, it gives me a headache. Charlie Chaplin is good. You see, because we're contaminated. And also, to try and erase everything from the mind is not possible. The vacuum will not remain. However, if one always thinks of Krishna and how to serve Krishna best, one's mind will naturally be controlled. So there you are, right there. Similarly, anger can be controlled. We cannot stop anger altogether, but if we simply become angry with those who blaspheme the Lord or the devotees of the Lord, we control our anger in Krishna consciousness. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became angry with the miscreant brothers, Jagai and Madai, who blasphemed and struck Nityananda Prabhu. In his Siksastika, Lord Chaitanya wrote, Trinadapi Sunichena Tararapi Sahasrana. One should be humbler than the grass and more tolerant than a tree. One may then ask why the Lord exhibited his anger. The point is that one should be ready to tolerate all insults to one's own self, but when Krishna or his pure devotee is blasphemed, a genuine devotee becomes angry and acts like a fire against the offenders. So, most people get angry when they are insulted. Here is saying, you should never get angry when you're insulted. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Okay, so we'll stop there and continue tomorrow. Haribol, Nectar of Instruction, Upadeshamrita. Unless someone has a question, if not, we'll stop. Yes, sir. Yes, comentario.
About this bullying, actually this bullying comes from Krishna.
The what?
The bullying.
What word is that?
Bullying.
Bully?
Bullying.
Bullion?
The bullying comes from Krishna.
I don't understand the word. Can you spell that word?
Bullying, when kids
Bullying, not bullying. Bullying, yes. Bullying comes from Krishna. Go ahead.
Because in the Krishna book, there is a lot of scriptures when Krishna is playing with another younger kids, and they throw the food packs around, and the kid even gets to cry.
Uh-huh.
So, in the material world, you said this is called entertainment, but actually, and we laugh about the mystery of somebody else. It's actually is what's happening.
Well, okay. Now let's talk about that. Everything that's in the material world is in the spiritual world, but in the spiritual world, it's pure, and in the material world, it's impure. So Krishna's bullying is glorified. But bullying in this world is vilified. You see? Just like if a lady who's married goes out with another man, that's vilified. That's in this world. But in the spiritual world, it's glorified. Right? Why is that? Because we cannot compare what's happening in the spiritual world with what seems to be the same thing in the material world. It's just like Lord Shiva can drink an ocean of poison and not die. If I even take one drop of that poison, I would die. Okay? So what he can do and what I can do are two different things. Although they might look the same, but they're not the same. So when Krishna is dancing with the gopis, it's not the same as you going to a nightclub with somebody else's wife. It's not the same thing. But it may look like it to the uneducated, the unclean. They might think it looks the same. Just like if I see